Part 1. The Awakening. Seeing anxiety through new eyes. There comes a moment in every life when the noise becomes too loud, when the pace becomes too frantic, when the mind, after years of being pulled in 1,000 directions, suddenly refuses to keep pretending it can handle one more demand, one more expectation, one more moment of holding it all together. Maybe that moment arrives in the middle of a crowded subway station in New York. Maybe it finds you alone in your car, parked outside work in Los Angeles, hands on the steering wheel, unable to open the door. Maybe it appears at night, in a quiet apartment in Chicago, the world outside asleep while your mind races like it's trying to outrun something you can't name. Wherever it finds you, the message is the same: something deep inside you is asking to be heard. For years, you may have brushed past that feeling. You blamed stress. You blamed work. You blamed other people. You blamed yourself. But the truth, the one we rarely admit, is simpler and far more honest. We are exhausted from living life in a way our hearts were never designed to survive. And so anxiety whispers louder. Not because you're weak. Not because you're broken. But because it's the only way your inner world knows how to tell you something essential: you are carrying too much, too fast, for too long. What you're about to read isn't a fantasy where anxiety magically disappears forever. The teachings here don't promise that. Life will still bring uncertainty. Your heart will still tremble sometimes. Your breath will still quicken in moments that feel bigger than you expected. But something else can happen, too, something extraordinary, something liberating, something powerful. You can learn to meet anxiety with a completely different relationship, not resistance, not fear, not shame, not the frantic need to fix yourself, but clarity, gentleness, wisdom, a kind of inner knowing that whispers, I can ride this wave. I don't have to drown in it anymore. This is the awakening, not a dramatic revelation, not a lightning strike, but the quiet beginning of seeing anxiety through new eyes. Eyes that no longer see it as the enemy, but as a messenger that has been waiting for years to tell you the truth about your life. Anxiety isn't a monster, it's a mirror for many people in America today. Hardworking adults juggling responsibilities, careers, bills, relationships, aging parents, hopes that feel too heavy and dreams that feel too distant. Anxiety has become a silent companion. It shows up in the tightening of your chest when you open your inbox, in the way you rehearse conversations before they happen, in the way you lie awake at night, imagining every possible way something could go wrong. But here's the part no one tells you. Anxiety is rarely about what you think it's about. It's not about the presentation next week. It's not about the relationship that feels uncertain. It's not about the bills waiting on the kitchen table. Anxiety is a signal, a gentle, subtle, sometimes overwhelming signal that your inner life needs attention, compassion, and space. The Buddhist teachings call this dukkha, the fundamental tension of being human. Not a flaw, not a punishment, simply the friction that arises when your heart is calling for rest, truth, presence, or healing, and your life has no room left to offer it. We often fear anxiety because we mistake it for danger. But what if anxiety is not a sign that something is wrong with your life, but that something inside you is ready to finally grow? That's the shift. That's the opening. That's the spark that begins the entire journey you're about to take. You don't need to be fixed, you need to remember. In a world obsessed with productivity, self-improvement, and the illusion that you should always be fine, most people carry unspoken shame about their anxiety. They think it makes them incapable. They think it makes them less. They apologize for it, hide it, deny it, drown it in distractions or caffeine or perfectionism. But the truth, the Buddha saw more than 2,500 years ago, is beautifully simple. There is nothing wrong with you. There is only something you forgot. You forgot that you are allowed to slow down. You forgot that you don't have to carry everything alone. You forgot that breathing is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. You forgot that your mind is not your master. You forgot that presence is your power, not your weakness. You forgot that storms inside you are not signs of failure, they are signs of life. You are not the chaos. You are the awareness behind the chaos. You are not the fear. You are the one who can see the fear without becoming it. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds every storm and still remains unchanged. When you begin to remember this not intellectually, but in your body, in your breath, in the way you choose to meet each moment, anxiety starts losing the authority it once had. This is how people change. Not by force, not by guilt, not by pressure, but by remembering who they are beneath the noise. The culture of more and why it's breaking us. If you live in America today, chances are you've been taught one idea since childhood: do more, be more. Achieve more, then maybe you will finally feel enough. That message is everywhere, on billboards, in office culture, in the way people compare themselves online, in the pressure to turn every hobby into a side hustle, in the fear that if you're not constantly improving, you're falling behind. This culture teaches you to outrun yourself. But there's a truth hidden beneath the exhaustion: you cannot outrun something that lives inside you. People today wake up overwhelmed before their feet touch the floor. They check their phones before they check their breath. Their minds enter a race before their bodies even rise from bed. It's no wonder anxiety grows. It has no space not to. The Buddhists call this the disease of hurry. Not just moving quickly, but living quickly. Rushing through meals. Rushing through conversations. Rushing through your own life, as if the point is to reach some invisible finish line. But here is the gently radical truth: what you're running from is usually the very place peace lives. And what you're running toward often does not exist. This part of the journey is about slowing down enough to actually meet yourself. Not the self you show others, not the self you think you should be, but the self beneath the pressure, the self beneath the anxiety, the self that's been waiting for you to turn inward and finally listen. A new way of seeing anxiety begins here. Think of anxiety like a wave. Most people try to fight the wave. They tense up, they panic, they brace against it, and it knocks them over. They come up gasping, believing the wave is the enemy. But what if anxiety is simply energy? A rising and falling, a movement of the mind. A message, not a threat. The Buddha taught that waves don't drown people. Clinging to the waves does. When you learn to stand on your inner ground, when you learn to feel the wave rise without assuming it will destroy you, everything changes. This doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen because you try harder. It happens because you start practicing a different way of being with yourself: gentler, more curious, more compassionate, more present, more honest, more human. You begin to ask different questions. What is this feeling trying to tell me? Where is my body asking me to soften? What thought am I believing right now? Is this fear a fact or a story? What would happen if I paused instead of reacted? What if nothing is wrong with me? What if I'm just awakening? And slowly, anxiety begins to lose the power it once held. Because when you see clearly, you don't fear the truth. And anxiety, at its core, is always pointing you toward a truth you've forgotten. A sacred invitation. This entire journey, all 10 parts, is not about escaping your life. It's about returning to it with new eyes. It's about shifting the lens through which you've been experiencing yourself. The Buddha didn't teach people how to avoid suffering. He taught them how to stop creating extra suffering on top of what life naturally brings. He taught them how to become intimate with their own minds, their own bodies, their own presence. He taught them that peace doesn't arrive when life becomes perfect. Peace arrives when you stop arguing with reality and start meeting it with wisdom. Right now, as you read these words, something inside you is already softening. Maybe your breath is slower. Maybe your shoulders dropped a bit. Maybe your thoughts are quieter. Maybe there is an instinctive sense that relief is possible. That isn't an accident. That isn't coincidence. That is your inner wisdom waking up. Call it presence. Call it awareness. Call it your true nature. Whatever name you choose, the feeling is the same you are remembering. This is the beginning of a new relationship with yourself, one built not on fear or resistance, but on understanding. Where we go from here in the chapters ahead, we will walk through the teachings that reshape the entire landscape of anxiety. Why resisting reality creates suffering. Why the mind tells stories that feel true, but aren't how the nervous system learns to feel safe. Again, how to reconnect with your body so anxiety no longer hides there. How breath becomes medicine. Why impermanence frees you from fear. How to live with presence in a world that wants your attention, and how to finally become your own refuge. But for now, let this moment be enough. The journey has already begun. Not because something outside you changed, but because you are changing gently, quietly, courageously from within. Take one slow breath. Feel it fill your chest. Feel it leave your body. Let the world pause around you for just a moment. You're here. You're awake. And you're ready. This is where anxiety stops being a cage and starts becoming a teacher. This is the awakening. There is a moment, subtle but unmistakable, when awareness shifts from being something you chase to something you recognize has been beside you all along. It happens quietly, like the way dawn opens without announcing itself. You don't notice the exact second darkness becomes light. You just realize, suddenly, that you can see again. Awakening to your anxiety is like that. Not dramatic. Not loud. Not a moment the world will applaud. But a moment that your heart will remember for the rest of your life. Because for the first time, you're not trying to escape what you feel. You're not trying to outthink it. You're not trying to shame yourself into being stronger. You're not bargaining with your emotions like they're enemies you have to negotiate with. Instead, you pause. Just long enough to notice yourself. And that pause, that single heartbeat of honesty, is the first real doorway to freedom. You don't calm anxiety by running from it. You calm it by turning toward it. For years, you may have tried to outrun your own mind. Most people do. They bury themselves in work. They scroll endlessly through their phones. They fill their calendars until there's no room for breath. They try to stay so busy that they never have to feel anything fully. But emotional avoidance always has a cost. Everything you refuse to feel doesn't disappear. It waits. It waits in your chest as tension. It waits in your stomach as knots. It waits in your mind as overthinking. It waits in your breath as shallowness. It waits in your life as anxiety. Avoided emotions don't dissolve. They accumulate quietly, silently, until one day something small pushes you over the edge, and the anxiety rushes out like a dam finally giving way. But here is the blessing hidden in the discomfort. What rises is ready to be healed. Whatever comes to the surface, fear, fatigue, overwhelm, sadness, tightness, is not an attack. It's an invitation. It's your inner world asking for presence. Not perfection. Not solutions. Just presence. And when you dare to face what you feel, when you dare to sit with it instead of running, something astonishing happens. The feeling begins to loosen. It begins to breathe. It begins to move. Because emotions, like everything else in life, are meant to flow, not be trapped. The first gentle lesson: anxiety loses power when you stop believing it's the enemy. Imagine for a moment that your anxiety is a child knocking at your door. Not to hurt you, but because it's scared. Because it needs comfort. Because it needs your attention. Most people respond by yelling through the door, "Go away. Not now. I don't have time for this." They hope if they resist long enough, the knocking will stop. But it never works that way. The knocking gets louder, more urgent, more demanding. Because the child inside you isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to be heard. Now imagine opening the door instead. Imagine kneeling down. Imagine whispering, "I'm here. I'm listening. Tell me what hurts." The moment you stop fighting what you feel, you stop feeding the fear around it. This is the beginning of wisdom. This is the beginning of inner safety. This is the beginning of healing. Because anxiety doesn't require you to be fearless. It just requires you to be present. The power of naming what you feel, one of the most transformative teachings in Buddhism, is profoundly simple. What you can name, you can face. What you can face, you can soften. What you can soften, you can survive. When anxiety rises, most minds react instantly. Something's wrong. What if this never stops? What if this gets worse? I can't handle this. This means I'm failing. But naming the experience creates distance. Instead of "I am anxious," you say, "I notice anxiety." Instead of "I'm drowning," you say, "There is a wave rising inside me." Instead of "I'm falling apart," you say, "My body is asking for attention." This shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Because the moment you name your emotion, you are no longer inside the emotion, you are the one observing it. And the observer is always calmer than the storm. You are the space, not the storm. One of the most liberating truths Buddhism teaches is this: you are not the thoughts that scare you. You are not the feelings that shake you. You are the awareness that holds them. You are the sky. Anxiety is the weather. Weather can be harsh storms, thunder, sudden winds, but the sky is never harmed, never broken, never destroyed. The sky allows everything, holds everything, and remains vast, open, undamaged. The same is true about you. Your inner storms, no matter how intense, do not diminish who you are. The feelings will pass. The thoughts will shift. The sensations will change. But the awareness witnessing them remains steady, untouched, whole. This is why real peace doesn't come from controlling your mind, but from seeing that you are more than your mind. When you remember this, the grip of anxiety begins to loosen. You begin to breathe again. You begin to return to yourself. And returning to yourself is the deepest medicine. The moment you stop running, you start healing. Some people think healing begins when life becomes easier. But the truth is gentler and more beautiful. Healing begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself. When you choose to stay with what you feel. When you choose presence over escape. When you choose honesty over self-judgment. When you choose curiosity over fear. Your mind may still race. Your breath may still tighten. Your thoughts may still swirl. But there will be you, the awake, aware you, holding steady within the experience. That is healing. That is transformation. That is awakening. And it doesn't matter how long you've struggled. It doesn't matter how deeply anxiety has shaped your life. It doesn't matter how many nights you've felt overwhelmed. Even now, especially now, you can begin again. Everything you're feeling makes sense. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You are not broken for needing rest. You are not failing for feeling anxious. You are human, beautifully, deeply human, living in a world that demands more than any heart can hold without trembling. Your anxiety is not proof of your inadequacy. It is proof of your sensitivity, your awareness, your depth. It means you care. It means you feel deeply. It means you were never meant to live numb. The world may have forgotten softness, but your body hasn't. Your breath hasn't. Your heart hasn't. Everything inside you is trying to guide you home. Home to ease. Home to presence. Home to truth. Home to yourself. This is the beginning of trust before this journey continues, before you learn tools and insights and practices that will reshape the way you experience anxiety. There is one truth you need to know: you are capable of healing. More capable than you've ever been told. Not because life will suddenly become simple, but because the wisdom you're searching for is already inside you. You don't need to earn peace. You need to remember it. You don't need to manufacture calm. You need to uncover it. You don't need to fight anxiety. You need to listen to it. Soon, in the chapters ahead, you will learn how to slow the mind, how to work with your nervous system, how to breathe in a way that rewires fear, how to release tension held silently for years, how to meet your emotions without being consumed by them, and how to build peace from the inside out. But for now, this moment is enough. You are here. You are awake. And something inside you is opening softly, gently, like a window letting in a breeze after years of still air. This is the beginning. Not of fear, not of chaos, not of overwhelm, but of understanding, of clarity, of freedom. This is the awakening, and it only grows from here. Part 2: The First Gate. Understanding the real source of anxiety. There comes a point when the mind grows tired of pretending that anxiety comes from the surface of life: the deadlines, the messages you haven't answered, the expectations you're not sure you can meet, the uncertainty that shadows every step forward. The world tells you that anxiety is about the moment you are in. But Buddhism whispers a quieter truth. What you fear most isn't the moment you're in, it's the meaning you've attached to it. This is the first gate. The place where you begin to understand that anxiety isn't a random force. It isn't chaos. It isn't punishment. It isn't a sign that you're weak or behind or failing. It has a cause, a pattern, a root. And once you see it clearly, the entire foundation of fear begins to weaken. Anxiety isn't born from the moment, it's born from the mind's argument with the moment. In the original Buddhist teachings, the second noble truth speaks of tanha, craving, grasping, the desperate urge for life to be different than it is. But modern life has added its own twist to this ancient truth. People today don't just crave a different experience. They crave control, perfection, certainty, guarantees that don't exist. And every time life fails to match the image you carry in your mind, anxiety rises to fill the gap between reality and expectation. Weather can be harsh storms, thunder, sudden winds, but the sky is never harmed, never broken, never destroyed. The sky allows everything, holds everything, and remains vast, open, undamaged. The same is true about you. Your inner storms, no matter how intense, do not diminish who you are. The feelings will pass. The thoughts will shift. The sensations will change. But the awareness witnessing them remains steady, untouched, whole. This is why real peace doesn't come from controlling your mind, but from seeing that you are more than your mind. When you remember this, the grip of anxiety begins to loosen. You begin to breathe again. You begin to return to yourself. And returning to yourself is the deepest medicine. The moment you stop running, you start healing. Some people think healing begins when life becomes easier. But the truth is gentler and more beautiful. Healing begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself. When you choose to stay with what you feel. When you choose presence over escape. When you choose honesty over self-judgment. When you choose curiosity over fear. Your mind may still race. Your breath may still tighten. Your thoughts may still swirl. But there will be you, the awake, aware you, holding steady within the experience. That is healing. That is transformation. That is awakening. And it doesn't matter how long you've struggled. It doesn't matter how deeply anxiety has shaped your life. It doesn't matter how many nights you've felt overwhelmed. Even now, especially now, you can begin again. Everything you're feeling makes sense. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You are not broken for needing rest. You are not failing for feeling anxious. You are human, beautifully, deeply human, living in a world that demands more than any heart can hold without trembling. Your anxiety is not proof of your inadequacy. It is proof of your sensitivity, your awareness, your depth. It means you care. It means you feel deeply. It means you were never meant to live numb. The world may have forgotten softness, but your body hasn't. Your breath hasn't. Your heart hasn't. Everything inside you is trying to guide you home. Home to ease. Home to presence. Home to truth. Home to yourself. This is the beginning of trust before this journey continues, before you learn tools and insights and practices that will reshape the way you experience anxiety. There is one truth you need to know: you are capable of healing. More capable than you've ever been told. Not because life will suddenly become simple, but because the wisdom you're searching for is already inside you. You don't need to earn peace. You need to remember it. You don't need to manufacture calm. You need to uncover it. You don't need to fight anxiety. You need to listen to it. Soon, in the chapters ahead, you will learn how to slow the mind, how to work with your nervous system, how to breathe in a way that rewires fear, how to release tension held silently for years, how to meet your emotions without being consumed by them, and how to build peace from the inside out. But for now, this moment is enough. You are here. You are awake. And something inside you is opening softly, gently, like a window letting in a breeze after years of still air. This is the beginning. Not of fear. Not of chaos. Not of overwhelm. But of understanding. Of clarity. Of freedom. This is the awakening. And it only grows from here. Part 2: The First Gate. Understanding the real source of anxiety. There comes a point when the mind grows tired of pretending that anxiety comes from the surface of life: the deadlines, the messages you haven't answered, the expectations you're not sure you can meet, the uncertainty that shadows every step forward. The world tells you that anxiety is about the moment you are in. But Buddhism whispers a quieter truth. What you fear most isn't the moment you're in, it's the meaning you've attached to it. This is the first gate. The place where you begin to understand that anxiety isn't a random force. It isn't chaos. It isn't punishment. It isn't a sign that you're weak or behind or failing. It has a cause, a pattern, a root. And once you see it clearly, the entire foundation of fear begins to weaken. Anxiety isn't born from the moment, it's born from the mind's argument with the moment. In the original Buddhist teachings, the second noble truth speaks of tanha, craving, grasping, the desperate urge for life to be different than it is. But modern life has added its own twist to this ancient truth. People today don't just crave a different experience. They crave control, perfection, certainty, guarantees that don't exist. And every time life fails to match the image you carry in your mind, anxiety rises to fill the gap between reality and expectation. When you compare your humanity to an impossible ideal, anxiety grows with every breath. But when you begin to let go of the shoulds, you begin to return to the truth: you are allowed to be human. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be imperfect. You are allowed to be in progress. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. Because no one heals by becoming perfect. People heal by becoming honest. Your life becomes lighter the moment you stop carrying what isn't yours. Anxiety often grows from the weight you carry that never belonged to you. Expectations placed on you years ago. Beliefs you inherited from people who never learned how to rest. Stories about success, written by a society obsessed with achievement. Fear shaped by past experiences that no longer reflect your present. Emotional burdens you hold for others because you were taught to be strong. But there is a simple, powerful truth that most people never hear. Not everything you carry is yours to hold. Some of your anxiety belongs to the unresolved pain of those who came before you. Some belongs to pressures you absorbed from the world. Some belongs to the child you once were, a child who learned to be afraid of disappointing others. The first gate opens wide when you ask yourself, what weight is mine, and what weight did life put on me? Clarity doesn't always feel peaceful at first. Sometimes it feels like grief, but grief is just love trying to cleanse the places where you have been carrying too much. And through that cleansing, you become free. This gate requires courage, but you already have enough. Understanding the source of your anxiety requires something rare in the modern world: courage without performance, honesty without judgment, awareness without fear. But you already have this courage. You proved it the moment you chose to read these words. You proved it the moment you got tired of suffering. You proved it the moment you stopped pretending you were fine. You're not weak for wanting peace. You're brave. You're not fragile for feeling deeply. You're awake. You're not failing for struggling. You're human, beautifully, powerfully human. The first gate doesn't open through force. It opens through willingness. Willingness to stop running. Willingness to stop hiding. Willingness to stop pretending the fear isn't there. Willingness to meet yourself exactly where you are. Because where you are is the only place healing can begin. And now the gate opens as you breathe in this moment. As you allow yourself to be honest with what lives inside you, you have already stepped through the first gate. This is not symbolic. It is real. It is happening now. You have begun the journey from resistance to awareness, from fear to presence, from fighting life to meeting life, from drowning in emotion to listening to it. And the next part of your journey will reveal something even more profound: how the culture of speed keeps your nervous system trapped in survival mode, and how slowing down becomes an act of liberation. Part 3: The Disease of Hurry. How speed hijacks the nervous system. There is a rhythm to modern life that almost no one questions, a rhythm so loud, so constant, so frantic that people begin to confuse it with normalcy. It's the rhythm of rushing, striving, pushing, forcing, scheduling, multitasking, and living in a near constant state of internal acceleration. And yet, beneath that movement lies a truth few are willing to speak. The human nervous system was never built for this pace. Not centuries ago. Not decades ago. Not now. Not ever. But somewhere along the way, people stopped honoring their limits. They started treating rest as laziness, exhaustion as weakness, and stillness as wasted time. They started believing that life must always move fast, faster than breath, faster than thought, faster than the heart can follow. And when the mind moves faster than the body's natural rhythm, something breaks. Not loudly, not suddenly, but slowly, invisibly, like a hairline crack forming under years of pressure. This is the disease of hurry. Not the harmless kind, the kind that steals presence, disrupts peace, and traps the nervous system in survival mode. And if you are living in America today, chances are you've been carrying this disease for years without knowing it. When life becomes a race you never agreed to run, there is a pressure woven into the fabric of modern culture, a pressure to keep up, move quickly, stay ahead, hustle harder, respond instantly, accomplish more, and fall asleep with a to-do list still whispering in your mind. It's the pressure that wakes people before dawn with a racing heart. It's the pressure that makes them check their phones before they breathe. It's the pressure that convinces them there is always something urgent waiting. They rush through breakfast, rush through traffic, rush through conversations, rush through decisions, rush through emotions, especially the painful ones. Life becomes a blur, not because it's full, but because it's fast. The tragedy is not that people move quickly. The tragedy is that they forget why they're rushing. They rush because they think peace comes after everything is done. They rush because they think worthiness must be earned. They rush because they think slowing down means falling behind. They rush because they think their value is measured by productivity. But every time you rush through a moment, you rush past the only place peace can exist, the present. Your nervous system knows the truth your mind tries to ignore here is something neuroscience and Buddhism agree on completely. The body understands reality long before the mind accepts it. When your days are too fast, your body tightens. When your thoughts are too many, your breath shortens. When your phone never stops buzzing, your heart never fully rests. The nervous system doesn't lie. It whispers truth through sensations long before the mind becomes aware. That knot in your stomach, that shallow breath, that tension in your shoulders, that inability to sit still, that feeling you're always behind, even when you're caught up, that exhaustion that sleep can't fix. These are not signs of personal failure. They're signs of a system overwhelmed by a life lived in fast forward. When you rush, the body stays in survival mode. When you slow down, it remembers safety. Your body has been waiting for you to notice it, waiting for you to hear it, waiting for you to return to its pace. Hurry creates the illusion that everything is an emergency. The disease of hurry doesn't just speed up your day, it changes the way you perceive the world. In a hurried state, a small inconvenience feels like a disaster. A simple decision feels like a threat. An unanswered text feels like rejection. A normal challenge feels like failure. A quiet moment feels uncomfortable. A pause feels like falling behind. Hurry hijacks your sense of proportion. Your brain begins treating mundane situations as life or death moments. This is why people feel anxious for reasons they can't explain. The explanation is simple. Your mind has been moving at emergency speed for so long that it cannot tell the difference between real danger and internal pressure. Slowing down isn't a luxury. It's a life-saving recalibration. A reset button for your nervous system. A return to the truth. The sacred pause. The medicine you forgot was yours in Buddhist tradition. There is a moment between sensation and reaction, a gap so small most people never notice it. But in that gap lies the possibility of freedom. It is the pause, the breath, the stillness before choice. Modern life has erased that gap. People react before they breathe. They rush before they think. They speak before they understand. They move before they feel. But when you reclaim the pause, you reclaim yourself. A pause is not inaction. A pause is presence. A pause is remembrance. A pause is wisdom speaking before fear can shout. Try it now. One slow inhale. One slow exhale. Let the world fall back for a moment. Let yourself arrive. This is the pause. This is the beginning of healing the disease of hurry. The mind becomes noisy when life becomes too fast. When your outer world accelerates, your inner world does too. Thoughts multiply. Emotions intensify. Attention fragments. Anxiety rises. But this is not because you are broken. This is because your life is louder than your heart. In a hurried mind, thoughts don't have time to settle. Emotions don't have time to be processed. Truth doesn't have time to be felt. Intuition doesn't have time to be heard. The result is internal chaos. A mind that feels like a crowded freeway full of noise and speed and fear and urgency. But here is the quiet truth: your mind is not chaotic. Your pace is. When you slow your pace, your thoughts soften. Your emotions become clearer. Your body relaxes. Your anxiety releases its grip. Calm is not something you chase. Calm is what remains when you stop running. The modern myth, if you slow down, you'll fall behind, this belief is one of the greatest illusions of our time, one that has stolen decades of peace from millions of people. If I slow down, I will fail. But here is the truth: the wisest people learn sooner or later. Slowing down is not falling behind. Slowing down is catching up with yourself, with your breath, with your life, with your truth. Look around. The people you admire most are rarely the ones who rush. They are the ones who move through life with presence, with clarity, with groundedness, with intention, with calm. Hurry creates mistakes. Presence creates power. The body is always calling you home, every time you feel overwhelmed, every time anxiety rises for no reason, every time the world feels too heavy. Your body is whispering the same message: slow down. Come home. I can only hold you if you stop running. But the world doesn't teach you to listen. It teaches you to numb, to ignore, to override, to push past limits until something breaks. Buddhism teaches the opposite. The moment you return to your body, you return to the present. And the present is the only place anxiety cannot survive. The body has been telling the truth your mind has been too busy to hear. If your life feels like too much, it is not because you are weak. It is because your pace is inhuman, and your spirit is refusing to be treated like a machine. Slowing down is an act of rebellion in a world that profits from your exhaustion. Your stillness is revolutionary, choosing to breathe fully, choosing to take one task at a time, choosing to rest without guilt, choosing to listen to your inner world, choosing to move at the pace of presence, not pressure. This is rebellion. This is liberation. This is spiritual courage. You are breaking a cycle that generations before you never escaped. You are refusing the inheritance of burnout. You are becoming the one who says, I choose life over speed. I choose presence over performance. I choose myself over the expectations that never end. Slow down enough to feel the moment you're in. Think of the most beautiful experiences in your life, the ones that shaped you, opened you. None of them happened in a rush. Moments of meaning require slowness. The sunrise you actually watch, the meal you actually taste, the conversation you actually hear, the breath you actually feel, the peace you actually allow. Hurry steals all of this. Slowness returns it. Your life is not measured by how fast you move. It's measured by how deeply you live. The gate of slowing down opens now. The disease of hurry can be healed. Not by quitting your life, not by escaping your responsibilities, but by changing the way you move through your days. By remembering that presence is strength. That clarity needs space. That peace needs breath. That your nervous system needs slowness to feel safe. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to take life at a human pace. And the moment you begin doing so, anxiety loses a piece of its power. Because the mind cannot panic when the body feels safe. And safety begins with slowing down. Part 4. Returning to the present moment. The only place anxiety cannot live there is a moment subtle, almost too quiet to notice, when the future stops pulling you and the past stops haunting you. It happens in a single breath. One shift of attention. One heartbeat where awareness awakens. And in that moment, the present appears, not as an idea, not as a technique, not as something spiritual or abstract, but as the most real and intimate truth of your life. The present moment is the only place that anxiety cannot survive. This is not poetic language. It is a biological, emotional, and spiritual fact. Anxiety lives in tomorrow. Anxiety lives in yesterday. Anxiety lives in the imagination, in predictions, projections, fears, assumptions, possibilities, expectations. It lives everywhere except here. Right here. In this breath. In this second. In this tiny slice of existence that is real. And yet most people spend very little of their lives actually living here. Your mind is a time machine, but your peace is not. The human mind has an extraordinary ability to move through time. It rewinds. It fast-forwards. It imagines. It constructs alternate realities. It predicts futures that never happen and replay pasts that can't be changed. This is not a flaw. It's part of your intelligence. But when the time-traveling mind becomes the place you spend most of your life, the cost is enormous. You lose touch with your body. You lose touch with your breath. You lose touch with your instincts. You lose touch with what's actually happening. Reality becomes filtered through stories, memories, fears, assumptions. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to live in a world that doesn't exist. The more time you spend outside the present, the more fear grows, because the mind is trying to solve problems that don't exist while ignoring the moment that does. The Buddha described this beautifully: the past is a memory. The future is a dream. The present is the only moment available to us, and it is the doorway to everything. The reason anxiety feels endless, one of the greatest misunderstandings about anxiety, is this: people believe anxiety comes from the present moment. But anxiety actually comes from the mind leaving the present moment. Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed. Was it truly because of what was happening, or because of what you feared might happen? Anxiety is rarely about what is. It is almost always about what could be. What if I lose control? What if the worst happens? What if they judge me? What if I don't succeed? What if I'm not enough? These aren't present moment truths. They're imagined futures, futures your body reacts to as if they were real. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a real threat and a vividly imagined one. That's why you feel fear even when nothing dangerous is happening. Your mind is telling your body a story, and your body believes it. But the opposite is also true. When your attention returns to the present, your body stops overreacting. It stops bracing. It stops spiraling. It stops preparing for disasters that aren't happening. This is not self-help. This is neuroscience. This is Buddhism. This is truth. Reality is always softer than the story you tell about it when you are fully in the present. A sensation is only a sensation. A breath is only a breath. A moment is only a moment. But when you leave the present, a sensation becomes a threat. A breath becomes an alarm. A moment becomes a warning. The mind attaches meaning, prediction, evaluation, fear. This is why reality is rarely what hurts you. What hurts you is the story you add to reality. Reality says there is tightness in your chest. The story says this means something is wrong with me. This might be dangerous. This will get worse. I can't handle this. Reality says there is uncertainty ahead. The story says something terrible is coming. I need to prepare for every possibility. I'm not safe. Reality is neutral. The story is what becomes unbearable. When you return to the present moment, the story dissolves and only the moment remains. And the moment is always easier than the story. Always. The present moment can hold everything you're afraid of. A powerful truth emerges. When you practice presence, you never drown in the moment you're in. You only drown in the moment you fear is coming. In the present, you are breathing. In the present, you are alive. In the present, you can handle what's happening. In the present, you are safe enough to exist. Presence doesn't remove discomfort. It reminds you that discomfort is survivable. And when your awareness becomes anchored in this breath, this body, this moment, a miracle unfolds. Your capacity grows larger than your fear. You become the space in which the fear arises and space does not break. Mindfulness isn't a technique, it's a homecoming. Many people approach mindfulness like a task, a skill, a trend, a hack to feel better. But mindfulness isn't a trick, it's a return. A returning to what you've forgotten: your breath, your body, your senses, your presence, your life. It is remembering that your awareness is always bigger than your thoughts. It is remembering that the body is always in the present, even when the mind is not. It is remembering that the next breath will come, even if the mind doubts it. Mindfulness is not about controlling your mind. It's about noticing your mind without becoming lost in it. It's about stepping out of the river of thoughts and onto the bank, where you can finally breathe. Your body is the doorway back. The mind leaves the present easily. The body does not. The body has no concept of yesterday or tomorrow. It lives here, now, always. That's why returning to the body is the fastest way to return to yourself. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your breath in your chest. Feel your hands resting where they are. Feel the weight of your body being held by the earth. This is reality. This is truth. This is presence. So many people try to think their way into peace. But peace is not an idea. Peace is a sensation. And sensations live here in the body in this moment, in the place where anxiety cannot survive. The mind will wander, that's not failure. That's nature. A common misconception about mindfulness is the belief that you must keep your mind still. But the mind isn't meant to be still. The mind is meant to move, explore, imagine, create. When your mind wanders, it is not failure. It is nature. Mindfulness is not about stopping the wandering. It's about noticing when it wanders and gently guiding it back, like a parent guiding a child by the hand. With no judgment, no irritation, no pressure. Just gentle guidance. Come back. Come home. Come here. The power isn't in staying present. The power is in returning to presence again and again and again. That return is the muscle that changes everything. Presence is not passive, it is transformational. Some believe presence means doing nothing, that it's passive, quiet, unproductive. But presence is the most productive thing you can practice. When you are present, you make wiser decisions. You communicate more clearly. You respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively. You listen deeply. You feel fully. You think with clarity. You act with intention. You rest with permission. You live with awareness. Presence is not passive. Presence is powerful. It is the foundation of emotional intelligence, the heart of healing, the doorway to peace, the birthplace of inner strength. Presence does not eliminate challenges. It equips you to face them. This breath is enough if your mind feels scattered, if your heart feels heavy, if your body feels tight, if your thoughts feel loud. Pause. Take one slow breath. A breath that belongs only to this moment. A breath that does not need to fix anything. A breath that does not need to prepare for anything. A breath that simply reminds you you are here. You are alive. You are safe enough in this moment. And this moment is enough. This breath is your anchor. This breath is your teacher. This breath is your home. You don't need to escape the storm, you need to find the ground beneath it. Some storms pass quickly. Some last for years. Some come without warning, but no storm, internal or external, has ever been stopped by panic. Storms are weather. Weather moves through. Weather changes. Weather passes. Anxiety is weather. It is movement, not identity. The present moment is the ground beneath the storm, the place that does not move even when everything above it does. When you return to the present, you return to the ground. And the storm loses the power to carry you away. The present moment is forgiving. No matter how many times you leave it, the present moment always welcomes you back. You cannot fail it. You cannot lose it. You cannot miss your chance. Every breath is an invitation. Every inhale is a doorway. Every exhale is a release. Every moment is another chance to begin again. The present moment is not something you earn. It is something you remember. And the remembering changes everything. This is the practice that frees you. Returning to the present moment is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a path, a rhythm you learn to trust. 1,000 times a day you may leave the present. 1,000 times a day you may return. That is the journey. That is the process. That is the awakening. And the more you return, the more the mind softens, the more the body relaxes, the more the heart opens, the more fear dissolves. You become less reactive, less overwhelmed, less frightened by your own thoughts, less consumed by imagined futures, less trapped by remembered pasts. You become more present, more grounded, more steady, more alive, more yourself. The gate of presence opens now as you read these words. You are already practicing presence. You are already breathing more softly. You are already returning to your body. You are already stepping into the moment where peace lives. The present moment has been waiting for you. Not with judgment, not with pressure, but with open arms. And once you learn to live here even for a few breaths at a time, your relationship with anxiety begins to transform from the inside out. The next chapter takes you deeper into the nature of thoughts themselves and the truth that you are not defined by the noise in your mind. Part 5, Freeing the Mind. You are not your thoughts. There is a moment on every healing journey when you begin to see something you've never fully understood before, something so simple, so obvious, yet so life-changing that it shifts the entire landscape of fear. That moment is this: you are not your thoughts. It sounds almost too simple, too gentle, too quiet to hold any real power. And yet, the moment you truly understand this, not intellectually, not as a concept, but in your bones, something inside you begins to soften in a way it never has before. Anxiety loosens, fear weakens, clarity returns, breath deepens. You begin to feel space inside your life again. Because for the first time, you realize your thoughts are events. You are the awareness noticing them. This is the heart of Part 5. This is the gate that frees the mind. The mind is loud, but you are not the loudness. Everyone has a mind that talks, that spins, that worries, that imagines, that warns, that judges, that catastrophizes, that remembers pain long after the moment has passed. You are not the only one whose mind races at 2 a.m. You are not the only one whose thoughts spiral. You are not the only one who feels overwhelmed by the voice inside their head. But here is the truth most people never hear. The mind talks the most to the person who listens the least. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you haven't yet learned to see thoughts for what they truly are: temporary mental weather. Not destiny, not prophecy, not identity, not truth. Thoughts are visitors passing through the space of your awareness. You are the space, not the visitor. If thoughts were facts, everyone would share the same mind. Here is a simple way to understand the illusion. Imagine two people standing in the same situation. One person feels hopeful. The other feels terrified. Nothing about the reality is different, only the thoughts each person believes. If thoughts were truth, everyone would experience life the same way. But they don't. Because thoughts are not truth. Thoughts are interpretations, habits, memories, fears, assumptions, echoes of past wounds, echoes of parental voices, echoes of culture, echoes of insecurity, echoes of longing. They are shaped by everything you've lived through. They are shaped by everything you've avoided. They are shaped by everything you've endured. Thoughts are reflections of your conditioning, not reflections of reality. What you experience as truth is often just a deeply practiced thought. Fearful thoughts are not warnings, they are patterns. The human mind has one job above all: to keep you safe. But the mind does not understand the difference between emotional danger and physical danger. It reacts the same way to a painful memory as it would to a speeding car. This is why many thoughts feel catastrophic. Not because danger is present, but because your mind has been trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. It doesn't mean you're unsafe. It means you have been hurt before. It doesn't mean you can't handle this. It means you were overwhelmed once. It doesn't mean this will go wrong. It means the mind is replaying an old fear. When you understand this, fear stops feeling like a prophecy and starts feeling like a pattern. And patterns can be changed. You do not have to believe every thought you hear. You don't believe every advertisement you hear. You don't believe every headline you see. You don't believe every opinion from strangers. But you believe every thought as if it were gospel, not because it's true, but because it sounds like your voice. Thoughts speak in your tone, with your vocabulary, in your inner language. But here is the truth: Just because a thought sounds like you doesn't mean it comes from the truest part of you. It comes from the conditioned part, the scared part, the exhausted part, the hypervigilant part, the part shaped by pain, pressure, fear, and childhood survival. The truest part of you is the one noticing the thought, not the thought itself. The third-person shift, a powerful way to break mental spirals when a thought feels overwhelming. Try shifting it out of the first person. Instead of, I can't handle this. Say there is a thought saying it can't handle this. Instead of, I'm going to fail. Say there is a fear-based thought predicting failure. Instead of, what if everything goes wrong? Say, there is anxiety imagining a worst-case scenario. This simple shift creates space. Space creates clarity. Clarity creates calm. You stop drowning inside the thought and begin standing beside it. And from beside it, you can see it for what it truly is, a mental event, not a reality. You are the sky. Thoughts are the weather. This metaphor has survived thousands of years for one reason: it's true. The sky is never harmed by storms. It never panics. It never breaks. It allows everything. It holds everything. It remains unchanged through everything. Thoughts are clouds. Emotions are storms. Sensations are wind. But the sky, your awareness, remains vast, open, and whole. When you cling to a storm, it feels like your entire world. When you see it from the sky's perspective, it is just passing weather. You don't need to fight storms. You need to remember the sky. The mind is not an enemy, it is an overprotective friend. People often blame their minds, get angry with their thoughts, feel ashamed of their spirals. But the mind is not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you using outdated emergency strategies from childhood, trauma, or old environments. Your mind learned to be loud because your world once needed it to be. Your mind learned to prepare for the worst because that once kept you safe. Your mind learned to overthink because at some point, thinking kept you alive. The mind is not the villain. The mind is the frightened guardian who doesn't realize you don't need such protection anymore. The goal isn't to silence the mind. It's to teach it that the world is different now, and that you, the adult, you can handle life in ways your younger self could not. Recognizing thought triggers. Thoughts do not come from nowhere. They have roots, patterns, echoes. Many anxious thoughts come from fatigue, loneliness, stressed build-up, past trauma, old memories, high expectations, perfectionism, fear of judgment, unprocessed grief, childhood, survival strategies, hypervigilance. Carried thoughts are visitors passing through the space of your awareness. You are the space, not the visitor. If thoughts were facts, everyone would share the same mind. Here is a simple way to understand the illusion. Imagine two people standing in the same situation. One person feels hopeful. The other feels terrified. Nothing about the reality is different, only the thoughts each person believes. If thoughts were truth, everyone would experience life the same way. But they don't, because thoughts are not truth. Thoughts are interpretations, habits, memories, fears, assumptions, echoes of past wounds, echoes of parental voices, echoes of culture, echoes of insecurity, echoes of longing. They are shaped by everything you've lived through. They are shaped by everything you've avoided. They are shaped by everything you've endured. Thoughts are reflections of your conditioning, not reflections of reality. What you experience as truth is often just a deeply practiced thought. Fearful thoughts are not warnings, they are patterns. The human mind has one job above all: to keep you safe. But the mind does not understand the difference between emotional danger and physical danger. It reacts the same way to a painful memory as it would to a speeding car. This is why many thoughts feel catastrophic. Not because danger is present, but because your mind has been trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. It doesn't mean you're unsafe. It means you have been hurt before. It doesn't mean you can't handle this. It means you were overwhelmed once. It doesn't mean this will go wrong. It means the mind is replaying an old fear. When you understand this, fear stops feeling like a prophecy and starts feeling like a pattern. And patterns can be changed. You do not have to believe every thought you hear. You don't believe every advertisement you hear. You don't believe every headline you see. You don't believe every opinion from strangers. But you believe every thought as if it were gospel, not because it's true, but because it sounds like your voice. Thoughts speak in your tone, with your vocabulary, in your inner language. But here is the truth: just because a thought sounds like you doesn't mean it comes from the truest part of you. It comes from the conditioned part, the scared part, the exhausted part, the hypervigilant part, the part shaped by pain, pressure, fear, and childhood survival. The truest part of you is the one noticing the thought, not the thought itself. The third-person shift, a powerful way to break mental spirals. When a thought feels overwhelming, try shifting it out of the first person. Instead of, "I can't handle this," say, "There is a thought saying it can't handle this." Instead of, "I'm going to fail," say, "There is a fear-based thought predicting failure." Instead of, "What if everything goes wrong?" say, "There is anxiety imagining a worst-case scenario." This simple shift creates space. Space creates clarity. Clarity creates calm. You stop drowning inside the thought and begin standing beside it. And from beside it, you can see it for what it truly is, a mental event, not a reality. You are the sky. Thoughts are the weather. This metaphor has survived thousands of years for one reason: it's true. The sky is never harmed by storms. It never panics. It never breaks. It allows everything. It holds everything. It remains unchanged through everything. Thoughts are clouds. Emotions are storms. Sensations are wind. But the sky, your awareness, remains vast, open, and whole. When you cling to a storm, it feels like your entire world. When you see it from the sky's perspective, it is just passing weather. You don't need to fight storms. You need to remember the sky. The mind is not an enemy, it is an overprotective friend. People often blame their minds, get angry with their thoughts, feel ashamed of their spirals. But the mind is not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you using outdated emergency strategies from childhood, trauma, or old environments. Your mind learned to be loud because your world once needed it to be. Your mind learned to prepare for the worst because that once kept you safe. Your mind learned to overthink because at some point, thinking kept you alive. The mind is not the villain. The mind is the frightened guardian who doesn't realize you don't need such protection anymore. The goal isn't to silence the mind. It's to teach it that the world is different now, and that you, the adult, you can handle life in ways your younger self could not. Recognizing thought triggers. Thoughts do not come from nowhere. They have roots, patterns, echoes. Many anxious thoughts come from fatigue, loneliness, stress, build-up past trauma, old memories, high expectations, perfectionism, fear of judgment, unprocessed grief, childhood, survival strategies, hypervigilance carried. You will feel disappointment. You will feel uncertainty. You will feel fear. You will feel grief. You will feel moments of loss. You will feel the ache of change. Pain is not a failure. It is not a punishment. It is not a sign that you are doing life wrong. Pain is simply the body's way of saying, something matters. Pain is the heart's way of saying, something touched me deeply. Pain is the soul's way of saying, this moment asks for attention. The first arrow is unavoidable. It is part of being alive, part of being sensitive, part of being human. But it is the second arrow that creates the kind of suffering that feels unbearable. The second arrow, the story you add to the pain. If the first arrow is reality, the second arrow is imagination. If the first arrow is what happens, the second arrow is what you tell yourself about what happened. The second arrow sounds like, "This always happens to me. I'll never get through this. Something is wrong with me. This means I'm not enough. This will ruin everything. People will judge me. I can't handle this." The second arrow is the exaggeration, the prediction, the distortion, the catastrophic thinking, the shame, the self-blame, the future tripping, the spiraling. It is fear masquerading as truth. And the remarkable thing is this: the second arrow hurts more than the first. The second arrow lasts longer than the first. The second arrow is the one your mind keeps throwing, again and again. You can't always stop the first arrow, but you can learn to stop firing the second. And that is where freedom begins. Why the mind throws the second arrow? Most people assume the second arrow appears because something is wrong with them. But the truth is far more compassionate. The mind throws the second arrow because it's trying to protect you poorly, clumsily, but sincerely. It thinks, if I prepare you for the worst, you won't be hurt again. If I shame you now, you won't fail later. If I predict disaster, you'll be ready. If I imagine every scenario, you'll stay in control. The mind means well. It is trying to help. But its methods are outdated. They were formed in childhood, in old environments, in moments of trauma or helplessness, in times when fear was useful and vulnerability was dangerous. Your mind is not attacking you, it is using survival strategies from a past that no longer exists. When you understand this, you stop demonizing your thoughts and start gently retraining them. The moment you notice the second arrow, you are free from it. Awareness is the medicine. When you notice the story, the spiral, the exaggeration, the catastrophic projection, you create space. And in that space, the second arrow loses its power. Try this. The next time anxiety rises, pause and ask, is this the first arrow or the second? If it is the first arrow, you'll feel the pain as its pure sensation: tightness, heaviness, heat, pressure. If it is the second arrow, you will notice a story: words, images, predictions, commentary. Sensation is survivable. Story is what becomes unbearable. But when you identify the story, you step outside it. And when you step outside it, it cannot control you. This is the beginning of mental freedom. Fear does not mean truth. One of the most important lessons of the second arrow is this: fear has nothing to do with truth. Fear has everything to do with memory. Fear is built on old pain, old wounds, old patterns, old conditioning, old moments where you didn't feel safe. Your mind is reacting to shadows, not facts. When the second arrow appears, your mind is not predicting your future, it is replaying your past. But you are not your past. You are the presence noticing the past arise. And presence is always stronger than memory. Suffering comes from what you resist, not what you feel. Pain passes. Resistance lingers. When the first arrow strikes, the fastest way to heal is to feel it fully, not dramatize it, not suppress it, not amplify it, not judge it. Just feel. But the second arrow fights the pain. It resists it. It adds fear to it. It adds meaning to it. It adds judgment to it. It adds identity to it. And the more you resist, the tighter the pain becomes. The body clenches. The breath shortens. The mind spirals. The emotion amplifies. Suffering grows. But when you allow the first arrow, when you simply acknowledge, this hurts, this is uncomfortable, this is difficult, this is heavy, the pain begins to move. It flows. It breathes. It releases. Pain that is felt fully cannot become suffering. Letting go of the story is not avoidance, it is wisdom. Some people fear that letting go of the story means denying their emotions. But the opposite is true, the story is avoidance. Presence is honesty. When you drop the story, you feel the emotion as it is: raw, real, uncluttered by thought. Sadness is just sadness. Fear is just fear. Anger is just anger. Loneliness is just loneliness. Simple, human, survivable. It is the story that makes sadness feel like despair. It is the story that makes fear feel like doom. It is the story that makes anger feel dangerous. It is the story that makes loneliness feel permanent. Feelings are temporary. Stories pretend they are eternal. Letting go of the story is not suppression. It is clarity. Identify the second arrow before it lands. The quickest way to end the suffering caused by the second arrow is to recognize it before it takes root. These are some of the most common forms: catastrophizing. What if everything goes wrong? Mind reading: everyone thinks I'm failing. Fortune telling: this will end badly. Self-blame: it's all my fault. Globalizing: this always happens. Hopelessness: there's no point trying. Identity fusion: this feeling is who I am. But the moment you name the second arrow, you disarm it. Naming is power. Labeling is clarity. Awareness is liberation. You don't fight the arrow. You see it. And seeing it is enough. Between the first and second arrow lies your freedom. There is a moment so small, it's almost imperceptible between the first arrow pain and the second arrow story. That moment is your doorway. If you learn to pause there, breathe there, feel there, notice there, you stop the second arrow before it ever reaches you. This is the place where transformation lives. Not in controlling pain, but in eliminating the suffering added to it. Not in silencing emotions, but in refusing to dramatize them. Not in becoming numb, but in becoming aware. The mind throws the second arrow. Awareness catches it. You have survived every first arrow of your life, everything life has ever thrown at you, every loss, every heartbreak, every moment of fear, every disappointment, every failure, every unexpected change you have survived. Not because you were perfect, not because you were fearless, but because the first arrow is survivable. It always has been. It always will be. What overwhelmed you were the thousands of second arrows you didn't know you were firing at yourself. But now you do know. And awareness turns second arrows into smoke. The gate of liberation opens now. Part 6 is the turning point in your relationship with anxiety. Because once you understand the second arrow, you begin to reclaim power you never knew you had. The power to separate sensation from story. The power to feel without drowning. The power to endure without breaking. The power to breathe without spiraling. The power to notice without reacting. The power to soften without fear. The power to live without multiplying pain. You cannot control the first arrow, but you can lay down the second. And when you do, your life becomes lighter in ways you never imagined possible. The next part of your journey takes you deeper into the wisdom of the body. The first place anxiety speaks, and the place you must return to if you want to heal at the root. Part 7: Coming home to the body. Where anxiety first speaks, there is a truth that every ancient spiritual tradition whispers, and every modern healing approach eventually rediscovers. Your body feels everything before your mind understands anything. Long before the thought appears, long before fear forms words, long before anxiety becomes a story, the body already knows. It tightens, it contracts, it holds, it protects, it braces, it warns. The body sends signals, subtle at first, loud when ignored, unavoidable when suppressed for too long. And yet, in the rush of modern life, most people have become strangers to their own bodies, disconnected from the home they live in every second of their lives. They live from the neck up, entangled in thoughts, drowning in mental noise, listening to fear louder than they listen to breathe. But your body has been trying to guide you back to truth, to safety, to presence, to healing. This chapter is the invitation to return home. Your body has been speaking to you all along. Most people believe anxiety starts in the mind. But the truth is this: your body reacts first. Your mind reacts second. Before the thought "I'm anxious" ever appears, your body has already begun adjusting itself. Your breath becomes shallow. Your chest tightens. Your shoulders rise. Your stomach tenses, your hands sweat, your heartbeat speeds up, your muscles brace for impact. These sensations are not the enemy. They are communication. The body is saying, I feel something, I sense something, I'm carrying something, I need attention, I need compassion, I need presence. But because the modern world trains people to ignore their bodies, these signals go unnoticed and anxiety grows louder. Ignoring the body never makes the message disappear. It only makes the message shout. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Every experience you've ever lived, every loss, every disappointment, every heartbreak, every moment of fear, every time you felt unsafe, every time you held back tears, every time you swallowed your truth, the body remembers. It stores what the mind tries to move past too quickly. This is not weakness. It is biology. It is humanity. It is the natural intelligence of a nervous system doing everything it can to protect you. But when emotions remain unprocessed, the body holds them as tension, as tightness, as heaviness, as knots that never seem to loosen, as exhaustion that sleep never seems to fix. And then one day, perhaps years later, the tension rises as anxiety, not because something is wrong, but because something inside you is ready to be released. Anxiety isn't always a sign of danger. Sometimes it is a sign of stored emotion trying to find its way out. When you ignore the body, the mind panics. Think of your mind as the narrator and your body as the censor. Your body feels something. Your mind doesn't understand what it is. So the mind does what minds do. It creates a story. It must be danger. It must be something bad. It must be something wrong with me. It must be a problem. It must be fear. But the mind is not feeling the sensation the body is. And because the two have become disconnected, the mind misinterprets the body's signals. This is why a tight chest gets interpreted as panic. A flutter in the stomach becomes fear. A spike in adrenaline becomes anxiety. A moment of emotional release becomes something is wrong with me. But nothing is wrong with you. Your body is simply trying to communicate in the only language it knows: sensation. The mind panics because it's trying to translate a language it has forgotten how to understand. Reconnecting with the body is the beginning of inner safety. So many people feel anxious because they don't feel safe in their own bodies. The body tightens and they fear it. The breath shortens and they resist it. The heartbeat rises and they judge it. The stomach knots and they assume the worst. But you cannot heal anxiety in a body you treat as the enemy. You must return, gently, slowly, lovingly, to the sensations you've been avoiding, to the places inside you that hold old tension, to the discomfort that rises when you get quiet, to the emotions waiting beneath the surface. Reconnecting with the body is how you learn to feel safe again, not because the sensations vanish, but because you stop being afraid of them. Safety is not the absence of intensity. Safety is the ability to stay with yourself even when intensity appears. Understanding the nervous system, your body's internal compass. Your nervous system has two primary states: 1. Survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, and 2. Safety mode, rest, presence, connection. Modern life keeps most people in survival mode far more than their bodies can handle. Constant multitasking, sleep deprivation, emotional suppression, high expectations, social comparison, financial pressure, chronic stress, the hustle culture. When the body is in survival mode long enough, the nervous system becomes hypersensitive. This hypersensitivity is what people call anxiety. But here is the powerful truth: your nervous system is not broken. It is overloaded. And what is overloaded can be soothed. Healing anxiety is not about controlling your thoughts. It's about calming the system beneath the thoughts. This begins in the body, not the mind. Your breath is the remote control of your nervous system. Of all the gateways back into the body, the breath is the most accessible and the most profound. Every inhale and exhale communicates directly with your nervous system. Slow breathing signals safety. Rapid breathing signals danger. Deep breathing releases tension. Shallow breathing increases panic. Your breath is the only part of your nervous system that you can consciously control. It is the bridge, the anchor, the stabilizer. The breath is how you tell your body it's okay. You are safe. You don't need to brace right now. Breathing is the first language of inner safety. But presence teaches you how to listen to what the breath is saying in return. The body speaks through sensation, not words. Thoughts are loud. Sensations are quiet. Thoughts yell. Sensations whisper. Thoughts accuse. Sensations communicate. When you slow down and listen, you begin to understand the messages. Tightness says, I'm holding something. Heaviness says, I'm tired. Heat says an emotion is rising. Numbness says, I'm overwhelmed. Tension says, I need space. Shallow breath says, I'm afraid. Butterflies say, this matters to me. Trembling says something old is releasing. Everything your body says is meant to guide you, not scare you. The fear comes only when the mind misunderstands the message. Feeling your body is not weakness, it is courage. Many people fear feeling their own sensations. They fear the intensity. They fear losing control. They fear what might happen if they let go. But here is the liberating truth: feeling is not losing control. Feeling is returning to control. What you avoid owns you. What you feel, you free. Allowing yourself to feel emotion, to feel sensation, to feel discomfort is not weakness. It is strength. It is bravery. It is maturity. It is wisdom. It is healing. Feeling your body is how you reclaim your life. Your body is the doorway to the present. Remember this: the mind leaves the present easily. The body never does. When you feel your breath, you are here. When you feel your feet on the ground, you are here. When you feel your heartbeat, you are here. When you feel your hands, your back, your chest, your warmth, your weight, you are here. Presence is not abstract. It is physical. You do not think your way into the present. You sense your way into the present. The body is the doorway because the body is always now. The body holds wisdom older than thought. Thought is clever, but the body is wise. Thought is fast, but the body is honest. Thought is loud, but the body is accurate. Your body carries truths that your mind is not ready to articulate. Truth about what you need, truth about what you fear, truth about what you avoid, truth about what you desire, truth about what you've outgrown, truth about what you can no longer tolerate. Your body knows long before your thoughts catch up. And the more you listen, the more you discover that your body is not your enemy, it is your guide. Honoring the body is how you learn to heal. Healing. Anxiety is not about pushing yourself, not about forcing calm, not about suppressing fear. It is about honoring the body. Rest when you're tired. Breathe when you're overwhelmed. Stretch when you're tense. Cry when you feel grief rising. Slow down when you feel pressure. Place a hand on your heart when you feel fear. Let go when you feel your body can't carry more. Healing begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself and start tending to the body that has carried you through every moment of your life. Coming home to the body is coming home to yourself. So many people wander through life feeling lost, disconnected, disoriented, ungrounded. Not because they lack purpose, not because they lack clarity, not because they lack discipline, but because they have forgotten the simplest truth: you cannot be at home in the world if you are not at home in your own body. Your body is not a cage. It is not a problem. It is not a burden. It is not a threat. Your body is a sanctuary, a place that has been waiting for you to return with gentleness, with curiosity, with compassion, with presence. When you come home to your body, you come home to your life. You reconnect with the ground beneath you, the breath within you, the truth inside you. You become centered. You become rooted. You become whole. The gate of the body opens. Now part 7 is the moment your healing journey turns inward, deeply inward, into the place where anxiety first appears and where it can finally be soothed. You have learned that your body speaks through sensation, that it holds emotions your mind cannot manage alone, that it reacts before your thoughts do, that it needs safety, not judgment, that it needs presence, not suppression, that it needs connection, not analysis. And now, you are ready for what comes next. The breath, your most powerful medicine, your inner anchor, the bridge that connects your mind and body into one unified state of calm. Part 8, breath as medicine, the anchor beneath every storm. There is a moment often unnoticed, often underestimated, where healing begins, not with words, not with thought, not with willpower, but with something far simpler: a single breath. A breath you didn't have to earn, a breath you didn't have to think about, a breath that arrived on its own the day you were born and has carried you through every moment since. Most of the time, you forget it's there. You overlook it. You take it for granted. You let it move unconsciously, quietly, faithfully, continuously. But the breath is not just biological. It is emotional. It is spiritual. It is psychological. It is the one part of your nervous system you can control at any moment to calm your body, soothe your mind, and anchor yourself in the present. Your breath is your home, your doorway to safety, your medicine, your anchor beneath every storm. And yet, in the noise and speed of modern life, most people rarely take a full breath. Your breath is the first thing anxiety steals. If you look closely enough, you'll notice that anxiety has a signature, a pattern it repeats every time. It enters your body, your breathing becomes shallow. The inhale shortens. The exhale becomes tight. Your chest rises more than your belly. Your shoulders lift. Your muscles tense. Your heartbeat accelerates. This is not a spiritual failure. This is biology. The body is preparing for danger. It is shifting into fight or flight mode. The breath is its first line of defense. But here is the freedom hidden inside that biological reaction. If anxiety can change your breath can change your anxiety. The nervous system listens to the breath more than it listens to the mind. This is why you can think positive thoughts and still feel overwhelmed. Your body has not received the message. The breath delivers the message. Your breath is the oldest teacher you have. Long before you learned language, before you learned fear, before you learned self-doubt, before the world taught you to push yourself too hard, you breathed with ease, with softness, with depth. Babies breathe into the belly. They breathe without fear. They breathe without trying. Their bodies trust life. Somewhere along the way, because of stress, because of trauma, because of expectations, because of constant pressure, you learn to hold your breath. You learn to brace. You learn to tighten. You learn to live in a state of subtle internal flinching. But the wisdom you were born with never disappeared. It waits beneath your ribs, beneath your tension, beneath your habits. And it whispers, "Come back. I can guide you home." Your breath is not just a reflex. It is your oldest memory of safety. Breathing is not about controlling it, is about allowing. Many people approach breathing like a technique, a skill to master, a perfect pattern to follow, a tool to get right. But breathing is not about performance. It is about permission. Permission to soften your chest. Permission to relax your belly. Permission to stop bracing. Permission to allow the breath to move instead of forcing it. When you breathe with softness, you tell your body you don't have to fight right now. You don't have to hide right now. You don't have to prepare for danger. You are allowed to rest. The breath is not mechanical, it is emotional. Every inhale tells your body receive. Every exhale tells your body release. Most anxiety comes from holding the inhale and never fully exhaling. The healing begins when you allow yourself to let go. Exhale first, then Everything follows when the breath becomes tight. Most people try to inhale deeply, thinking that more air is what their body needs. But the real medicine is the exhale. The exhale is the grounding. The exhale is the safety signal. The exhale is how the body releases tension. The exhale is how the nervous system shifts into calm. Try it now, slow, soft, long exhale longer than your inhale. Feel your shoulders drop. Feel your chest soften. Feel your stomach loosen. Feel your heartbeat slow down. This is the moment your body realizes we're safe enough to relax. You don't need perfection. You don't need deep meditative breathwork. You just need the exhale to be slightly longer than the inhale. That's enough to change everything. When you follow the breath, you return to the present. Anxiety lives in the future. Shame lives in the past. Fear lives in imagined catastrophe. But the breath only lives now. You cannot inhale the future. You cannot exhale the past. Every breath is a doorway back into the moment you're actually living. When your mind spirals, breathing anchors you. When your emotions overwhelm, breathing stabilizes you. When your body tenses, breathing softens you. The breath is not just presence. It is presence embodied. And every time you return to the breath, you return to yourself. Breath as emotional release. You have held more than you realize: years of pressure, suppressed emotions, unspoken truths. Moments you didn't have the space to feel. The body carries all of it until the breath releases it. Sometimes release feels like a deep sigh, warmth spreading through the chest, shaking in the hands, tears rising, a softening of the jaw, loosening of the stomach, a sudden feeling of lightness, of fatigue that means your guard is dropping. This is not weakness. This is healing. This is the body letting go of what you once had to hold. The breath clears what the mind cannot. Your breath does not judge you. Your thoughts judge you. Your fears criticize you. Your expectations push you. Your past haunts you. Your mind compares you. Your ego demands more of you. But your breath simply arrives. Whether you are stressed or peaceful, tired or overwhelmed, confident or afraid, the breath keeps coming. It does not shame you. It does not abandon you. It does not demand perfection. It does not care how many times you've struggled or how lost you feel today. Your breath is unconditional. It stays even when you fight it. It softens even when you forget it. It forgives even when you ignore it. Your breath is the most loyal part of your existence. Breathing creates space for new thoughts. When your breath is shallow, your mind becomes small. When your breath deepens, your awareness expands. This is not philosophy, this is physiology. A tight breath sends a signal to the brain: prepare for danger. A soft breath sends a signal: there is space. You can think clearly. You can see options. You can handle this moment. A calm breath does not eliminate anxiety, but it reduces the intensity by giving your brain room to breathe. Thoughts soften. Emotions settle. Perspective widens. Fear loosens its grip. A single breath can shift the entire landscape of the mind. Breathing is the fastest way to interrupt panic. When panic rises, your thoughts are too fast to catch. Your emotions are too intense to slow. Your mind is too overwhelmed to reason with. But your breath is always accessible. You cannot reason your way out of panic, but you can breathe your way out of it. Soft belly. Slow exhale. Repeat. This is how you interrupt the spiral. This is how you regain control. This is how you signal safety to a body that believes danger is near. Panic is not a monster. Panic is a frightened nervous system asking for slowing, softening, space. The breath provides all three. The breath teaches you to stay instead of run. When discomfort arises, your instinct may be to escape, to distract, to numb, to hide, to overthink. But when you stay with the breath, you learn a truth that the mind cannot teach. You can survive the sensations inside you. You don't need to flee the moment. You don't need to silence your body. You don't need to fear your own internal experience. The breath trains you to stay grounded when your instinct is to run. And the more you stay, the more you learn, I can hold this. I can feel this. I can breathe through this. This will pass. This is resilience. This is strength. This is awakening. Breathing opens the door to self-compassion. Breathing is not just physical. It is emotional self-care. Each inhale says, I'm here with myself. Each exhale says, I don't have to carry everything alone. Breathing slows the mind long enough for compassion to enter. Compassion softens the heart long enough for healing to begin. People often ask, how do I love myself? Begin by breathing with yourself. The body opens when the breath is gentle. The heart opens when the breath is slow. The mind opens when the breath is steady. You cannot hate yourself and breathe gently at the same time. Your breath is the most sacred thing you own. You can lose your possessions. You can lose relationships. You can lose opportunities. You can lose plans, routines, and expectations. But as long as you are alive, you have breath. And breath means hope, softness, renewal, another chance, another beginning, another moment, another opportunity to return. Your breath is your proof that life has not given up on you. You are still here, still breathing, still capable, still becoming. Every inhale is a beginning. Every exhale is a letting go. This is the rhythm of healing. This is the rhythm of life. The gate of the breath opens now. 8 is your return to the most ancient, natural, compassionate medicine you carry inside you. Through the breath, you have learned how to calm your nervous system, how to interrupt anxiety, how to signal safety, how to release emotional tension, how to anchor yourself in the present, how to soften instead of panic, how to return to your body, how to open the door to compassion. You are not the storm. You are the breath beneath it. You are not the fear. You are the awareness holding it. You are not lost. You are returning one breath at a time. The next chapter takes you into one of the most liberating truths in all of Buddhism. Impermanence, the understanding that nothing lasts, and because nothing lasts, you can stop fearing the future and start trusting the moment you're in. Part 9, the wisdom of impermanence. Nothing lasts. And that is the freedom. There is a truth at the center of Buddhist teaching, a truth so simple that at first glance it might look fragile. But in reality, it is the most powerful medicine against fear, anxiety, and emotional suffering. The truth is this: everything changes. Everything. Always. Nothing stays. Nothing remains fixed. Nothing is permanent. Not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your circumstances, not your fears, not your wounds, not your storms. What hurts today may heal tomorrow. What feels overwhelming this month may soften next month. What feels impossible right now may become your strength in time. Impermanence is not the enemy. Impermanence is the freedom you've been searching for. But in a world that clings to certainty, to comfort, to identity, to control, impermanence feels terrifying. Because change means letting go. Letting go means trust. And trust requires courage. This chapter is the moment you reclaim that courage. The fear of change is the fear of losing control. Why does change frighten us so deeply? Because the mind equates change with danger. It assumes that if something shifts, you will lose your balance. It assumes that if something ends, you will lose your identity. It assumes that if something disappears, you will lose your safety. But life is change. Every sunrise, every breath, every season, every heartbeat, every moment. Control is the illusion, change is the reality. Anxiety grows in the gap between these two. When you cling to what must change, you suffer. When you fear what must end, you suffer. When you resist what must flow, you suffer. But when you learn to trust change, even when you don't understand it, you begin to experience a kind of peace that no amount of certainty could ever give you. Nothing that comes stays forever, and nothing that leaves is gone forever. Impermanence is not loss. Impermanence is movement. Your emotions move. Your thoughts move. Your fears move. Your experiences move. Your seasons move. Your identity moves. What feels heavy today may feel light next month. What feels confusing now may feel clear in a year. What feels unbearable in this moment may become the reason you finally grow. Impermanence is what makes healing possible. Impermanence is what allows transformation. Impermanence is what allows new beginnings. If everything stayed the same, you would be trapped forever in the worst moments of your life. Impermanence is the door out. Every emotion has a lifespan. Anxiety feels eternal when you're in it. Fear feels permanent when it's loud. Sadness feels endless when it's deep. Uncertainty feels unescapable when it surrounds you. But no emotion lasts forever. Every emotion follows the same law. It rises, it peaks, it softens, it passes. This is why fighting your emotions only prolongs them. Why fearing your emotions only intensifies them. Why resisting your emotions only traps them inside your body. But when you allow the emotion to move, it completes its natural cycle. Think of emotion like a wave. It rises sharply, it reaches a crest, and then always it falls. You don't need to stop the wave. You only need to stop believing that the wave is the ocean. You are the ocean. The emotion is just a wave passing through. Impermanence makes pain bearable. When you understand impermanence, your entire relationship with pain changes. You no longer see pain as a life sentence, you see it as a visitor. A visitor you will greet, a visitor you may not enjoy, a visitor you will learn from, but a visitor who will always leave. Pain is part of life. Suffering is what happens when you believe pain is permanent. Pain says this moment hurts. Suffering says this moment will hurt forever. But impermanence whispers no. Not forever. Not even close. Just breathe. Keep your heart open. This too will move. And it will. It always does. Clinging is the source of fear. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from pain but from clinging. Clinging to how things were. Clinging to how things should be. Clinging to certainty. Clinging to outcomes. Clinging to identities. Clinging to expectations. The more tightly you cling, the more afraid you become of losing. The more afraid you become of losing, the more anxious you feel. Clinging is the root of anxiety. But letting go is not giving up. Letting go is trusting that life can hold you even when you're not gripping everything with both hands. Letting go is courage. Letting go is maturity. Letting go is wisdom. Letting go is how you make space for the new. Impermanence makes beauty possible. Imagine if sunsets lasted forever. Imagine if seasons never changed. Imagine if every moment were frozen. It sounds peaceful, but it would strip the world of meaning. Beauty exists because time moves. A sunset is beautiful because it fades. A flower is beautiful because it withers. A moment is meaningful because it ends. Your life is precious because it passes. In this way, impermanence is not loss. Impermanence is what makes everything worth loving. Impermanence frees you from the past. The past does not define you unless you keep carrying it. Memories shape you, but they do not imprison you unless you refuse to let them move. Every moment that has harmed you is already fading. The body heals. The mind rewires. The heart reopens. The past is not fixed. Your relationship to it can change. Your interpretation of it can change. Your emotional attachment to it can change. Impermanence is how you forgive. Impermanence is how you release. Impermanence is how you grow. Your past is not permanent. And neither is the version of you that lived through it. Impermanence frees you from the future. Most anxiety comes from anticipating a future that has not arrived. But impermanence teaches something liberating. The future you fear may never exist. Your fears will change. Your circumstances will change. Your strength will grow. Your resources will expand. Your heart will adapt. Your life will move in directions you cannot predict. Impermanence frees you from the illusion that the future must reflect your anxiety. Nothing in your future is fixed. Everything can shift. Everything can soften. Everything can evolve. You don't have to figure out the future, you only have to live the moment you're in. Even your identity is impermanent. You are not who you were last year. You are not who you were 5 years ago. You are not who you were as a child. You will not be the same person 5 years from now. You are constantly changing in awareness, in wisdom, in resilience, in compassion, in understanding. You don't have to cling to old versions of yourself. You don't have to stay loyal to old patterns. You don't have to repeat old mistakes. Impermanence means you can become someone new. Every day, every hour, every moment. You are not a fixed identity. You are a living, evolving process. Impermanence turns fear into faith. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is trust in movement. Faith is trusting that the wave will fall. Faith is trusting that the night will turn to day. Faith is trusting that the season will change. Faith is trusting that pain will soften. Faith is trusting that breath will return. Faith is trusting that your heart can heal, even when you don't know how. Faith is not hoping for a perfect life. Faith is believing in your ability to move with life as it changes. You become fearless not by controlling your life, but by trusting your capacity to adapt to whatever comes. The gate of impermanence opens. Now, part 9 is the chapter where everything begins to fall into place, where you begin to understand that the world is constantly moving, and you do not need to fight that movement. You have learned that emotions are temporary, that circumstances shift, that pain rises and falls, that fear dissolves, that your identity evolves, that nothing you experience is permanent, that change itself is the path out of suffering. Impermanence is not the enemy. Impermanence is the freedom you've been longing for. When you understand this, you stop clinging. You stop resisting. You stop fearing the future. You stop carrying the past. You begin to breathe again, to trust again, to soften again, to open again. And now, you are ready for the final chapter, the chapter where all the teachings come together in the most profound truth of all. You can become your own sanctuary, your own peace, your own refuge. Part 10, Becoming Your Own Light, the sanctuary within you. There comes a moment on every inner journey, often quiet, often gentle, often without any dramatic sign, when you realize that everything you're cheering for has been within you all along. Peace, strength, safety, worthiness, stillness, courage, clarity, compassion, presence. You spent so many years chasing these things through achievement, approval, perfection, relationships, identities, and expectations. You look to the world for answers. You look to the future for reassurance. You look to others for permission. You look to your past for proof. But now, after walking through the gates of awareness, through the gates of presence, through the gates of mind, through the gates of breath, through the gates of impermanence, you finally understand what you have been seeking is not outside you. It is you. You are the sanctuary. You are the refuge. You are the ground beneath your storms. You are the presence that cannot be broken. You are the light you were waiting for. This is the final awakening. You are not the person anxiety told you you were for years. You may have believed the voice of fear. You may have believed you were fragile. You may have believed you were not enough. You may have believed you were too emotional, too lost, too overwhelmed. But anxiety was never describing you. It was describing your wounds. It was describing your past. It was describing your nervous system under pressure. It was describing your unhealed patterns. Anxiety was never your identity. It was your teacher. It showed you where you needed safety. It showed you where you needed boundaries. It showed you where you needed rest. It showed you where you needed healing. You were never weak. You were wounded. And wounds heal. You were never broken. You were overwhelmed. And overwhelm softens. You were never failing. You were surviving. And survival is strength. You are not who you thought you were in your darkest moments. You are who you are becoming right now, awake, aware, present, courageous, healing. The light you seek comes from within. Throughout history, spiritual seekers climbed mountains, entered monasteries, traveled across deserts, searching for truth, searching for peace, searching for some enlightened teacher to hand them the answers. But the greatest teachers all said the same thing: you can learn from me, but the truth you seek is inside you. You do not need a mountaintop. You do not need a monastery. You do not need permission from the world. You do not need a perfect life to feel peace. You only need one thing: your own presence. Presence is your inner temple. Presence is your meditation cushion. Presence is your sacred space. Presence is your teacher. The light does not arrive from outside. It awakens from within. You have become the observer, not the storm. Look back at the person you were before this journey began: someone who believed every anxious thought, someone who tensed at every sensation, someone who ran from emotions, someone who tried to outrun the mind, someone who lived in a world of what-ifs, someone who didn't know how to rest. Now look at you. You can observe thoughts without becoming them. You can feel emotions without drowning in them. You can breathe through discomfort without panicking. You can slow down without feeling behind. You can witness fear without obeying it. You can be present even when life is uncertain. You are no longer the storm. You are the sky watching the storm pass. You have become your own safe place. Safety used to mean control. Safety used to mean certainty. Safety used to mean pleasing everyone. Safety used to mean avoiding discomfort. Safety used to mean never making mistakes. But now you understand safety is not the absence of discomfort. Safety is the presence of yourself. Safety is your breath. Safety is your awareness. Safety is your ability to stay present. Safety is your ability to come home to your body. Safety is your ability to let emotions move. Safety is your ability to stop throwing the second arrow. Safety is your ability to trust impermanence. Safety is your ability to self-soothe, self-support, self-honor. You do not find safety in the world. You bring safety to the world because you have found it inside yourself. The world does not become less chaotic. You become more grounded. Life will still bring uncertainty. Life will still bring change. Life will still bring challenges and seasons that test your limits. The goal was never to eliminate chaos. The goal was to become the person who can remain steady within it. Calm is not the absence of storms. Calm is the ability to return to your breath while the storm passes. Strength is not the absence of struggle. Strength is the ability to stay with yourself when struggle arises. Freedom is not the absence of fear. Freedom is the ability to feel fear without losing yourself to it. You have become grounded, not because life is easier, but because you are stronger, softer, more present, more awake. You will lose yourself sometimes, and that's okay. Healing does not mean you never get anxious again. Healing means you know how to come home. You will forget what you've learned sometimes. You will get overwhelmed sometimes. You will fall back into old patterns sometimes. You will lose your center sometimes. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. And every time you return to your breath, to your body, to your presence, to your truth, you grow stronger. The return is the healing. The return is the progress. The return is the path. Being your own light does not mean doing everything alone. Becoming your own sanctuary does not mean isolating yourself. It does not mean rejecting help. It does not mean carrying every burden alone. It means knowing that your inner stability does not depend on someone else's approval. It means knowing that your peace does not rely on the world being perfect. It means knowing that you can receive support without losing yourself, without feeling powerless, without becoming dependent. Your inner light exists so you can walk with others without losing your way. You are no longer afraid of yourself. This may be the greatest transformation of all. You are no longer afraid of your own emotions, of your own thoughts, of your own sensations, of your own uncertainty. You have learned how to sit with discomfort without spiraling. You have learned how to breathe through intensity without running. You have learned how to let emotions rise without fearing their power. You have learned how to witness your mind without believing it blindly. You have learned how to honor your body instead of fighting it. You have learned how to stay when everything in you wants to flee. You are not afraid of yourself anymore. This is freedom. Becoming your own light is not the end. It is the beginning. The journey does not end here. It begins here. Because now you walk through the world differently, with a calmer breath, with a softer body, with a clearer mind, with a wiser heart, with a steadier presence, with a deeper trust, with a more compassionate view of yourself. You move through life with awareness instead of autopilot, with presence instead of panic, with courage instead of fear. You carry your sanctuary with you. You carry your peace with you. You carry your clarity with you. You carry your inner light with you. You are no longer waiting for life to calm down before you allow yourself to breathe. You breathe and life calms around you. You are the home you've been searching for in the end. All spiritual teachings point to the same truth. Come home. Come home to your breath. Come home to your body. Come home to your awareness. Come home to the present moment. Come home to your heart. Come home to yourself. And once you arrive, truly arrive, you realize that you were never lost. You were simply walking in circles around the place you have belonged all along. You are home now. You are whole now. You are here now. This is the sanctuary. This is the refuge. This is the stillness. This is the awakening. This is you. Your own light, your own peace, your own medicine, your own truth. And nothing, not fear, not anxiety, not uncertainty can take that away from you. You are free. When you look back at the entire journey we've walked together, from the first whisper of anxiety to the final awakening of inner peace, something becomes clear. Everything you needed was already inside you. You learned that anxiety isn't a flaw or a personal failure. It is a message, a signal that your body, your mind, and your spirit have been yearning for your attention. It calls you home, back to a pace that feels human, back to a breath that feels soft, back to a presence that feels true. You discovered how the modern world convinces you to live too fast, too distracted, too externally driven. And slowly, gently, you realized that the disease of hurry was never compatible with the biology of your heart. You cannot outrun yourself. You cannot think your way into peace. But you can return through breath, through stillness, through presence. You learned the difference between the first arrow and the second arrow, how real pain arises, but unnecessary suffering multiplies when the mind adds stories, fear, predictions, and catastrophes that are not true. You learned that the mind is not your enemy. It is a frightened friend using outdated survival strategies. You are not your thoughts, you are the witness behind them. You learn to reconnect with your body, the home where anxiety first speaks. You learn that your sensations are not threats, but messages, that your nervous system is not broken but overloaded, and that safety begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself. You discovered the power of your breath not as an abstract idea, but as living medicine. A soft exhale can change the chemistry of your entire being. The breath is your anchor in every storm, your bridge between fear and clarity, your compass that always points you back to the present. You learned the wisdom of impermanence, that nothing lasts, not the fear, not the pain, not the moment you feel trapped in. And because nothing lasts, everything becomes bearable, everything becomes workable, everything becomes transformable. Impermanence is not the enemy of stability. It is the reason healing is possible. And ultimately, you learn to become your own sanctuary, your own source of safety, your own source of calm, your own truth, your own light. You are no longer waiting for life to change before you allow yourself to breathe. You breathe and your life changes around you. Deep life lesson: your peace does not come from the world becoming easier. It comes from you becoming more present. Your power is not in deleting discomfort, but in learning to stay with yourself through it. You are your own refuge. You are your own home. How to apply this today: when anxiety rises, pause, place a hand on your chest, and breathe out slowly. When your thoughts spiral, say, "This is the second arrow," and let it pass. When your body tenses, listen, it is speaking a truth your mind has ignored. When fear arrives, remember, this will not last. Nothing does. When life overwhelms, return to the simplest practice: I'm here. I'm breathing. I'm safe enough in this moment. These small steps, repeated daily, change everything. A question for you: what part of this journey spoke to you the most? Which insight touched you or shifted something inside you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective may help someone else on their journey, too. If this message brought you peace, please subscribe to the channel. Your support gives us the strength and motivation to continue creating meaningful, healing content for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for breathing with us. And thank you for choosing peace again and again.